When you feel like you have no direction, when you feel lost, remember that clarity doesn't come first, action does. Hello everyone, thanks so much for joining me here today. If you're new, I'm Amanda. Welcome to the channel where we are all about shattering the mental health stigma. So back in 2008, I was ready to end it all. I didn't want to be here. I was in a very dark place. And since then, I have come to the other side and I just like taking the buckets of water back to the people who are still in the flames. And one of the ways I like to do that is by listening to songs for the first time, breaking them down from a mental health lens, both from my own personal experience and from my educational background, as I have a bachelor's in forensic psychology. So make sure that you are making sweet, sweet love to that subscribe button and giving the bell a few kisses so you aren't missing any of this content designed to help you or help someone else with their mental health. So one of the perks of being a member of the channel is getting to choose the songs that I react to. And I think you guys tricked me because everybody voted for Wings for Marie by Tool, and I didn't realize that this was a two-part song. So I think you guys tricked me just so you could get a twofer. So I reacted to part one, so this is gonna be my reaction to part two. If you have a song that you think would add to the mental health conversation that would be perfect for me to react to, feel free to suggest that in the comments below. But the best way to request a reaction is by checking out my Patreon. Link is in the description. One of the perks you get is priority song requests. You also get to hang out on fun little Zoom chats with me every month. And I've decided to add coaching, both group coaching and one-on-one coaching for those who might be lost in the dark or who might just feel stuck and need some extra direction. Again, link is in the description. Make sure to check that out. But today I'm going to be reacting to 10,000 Days, which my understanding is Wings for Marie Part 2 by Tool. So I already did part one. Now I'm diving into part two. And the first part was so unexpected and so all over the place that I have no idea what to expect here or what I'm getting myself into. So I'm just gonna brace myself and hold on for what's probably gonna be a crazy ride. Oh, this is long. Okay. It's like I'm getting anxiety not knowing what to expect. I like that storm. God. Ooh. Okay, I have to stop. There's so much to say. I feel like I'm on the battlefield. Like the rain, that is such an amazing effect for this song. It makes me feel like I'm on the battlefield. And there's something about his voice. I don't know how to describe it or how to explain it, but there's something about his voice that just sounds so matter of fact that I just trust everything he says. I just believe everything. So that whole sound effect is just very unique for this kind of song, though I don't even know what this kind of song is because it's just so different. But I think this dives into frustration with both people and belief systems. And I can attest to struggling with both of those things. But I think he's calling out how others romanticize struggle and faith without ever truly experiencing real suffering. They turn into something performative, and that really frustrates me as someone who's seen some in her time, someone who's really struggled. People that try to say, oh yeah, I know how you feel. It's like the celebrities during COVID that were all, yep, I'm just like you. No, you're freaking not, okay? And I understand everyone has their own journey, and I am very big on respecting that and holding space for that. But it's very frustrating when people turn that into something, either they're trying to one up you or they're saying, oh, look at me helping this person. Do you see the social media post I'm making of me helping this person? There's some YouTubers, I won't name any names, that are very big on look at all the charity I'm doing, look at these kind things. And while we do that as part of our community, I'm very big on not making it into content, not making it into videos, not doing that. But I think this is about the gap between talking about pain and actually living it. So it's the difference between sympathy and empathy. So sympathy is where you're standing at the top of the hole and you're going, oh yeah, you know, it really stinks to be in that hole. I've totally been in a hole before. But then there's empathy when you're getting down in the hole and trying to truly understand where the other person is coming from without, you know, trying to hijack, you know, their grief and their pain. I think he's rejecting religious narratives that feel hollow. As an atheist myself, I can very much understand why it feels hollow. I've talked about that in my Judith reaction. I talked about that in part one. But it's criticizing those who lean on belief without depth or self-awareness. And that's the problem I have. I don't mind if you believe in something. I love that for you if that brings you comfort. But this is the we're praying for you crowd, essentially, where it's just, you know, we see you and we want to be seen that we're doing something for you without actually doing something for you, without actually having that empathy, without actually trying to connect and help in any meaningful way. It's hiding behind this dogma, in my opinion. But in contrast, I think he elevates her. I think that her suffering, her integrity through this whole experience of her suffering, those were real, and those weren't imagined, and that's what made her different. She really walked the walk, and those are the people, regardless of what you believe in, that I connect with, that I have the most respect for, because they're living up to in the sense of Christianity, they're living up to what they believe Jesus was, you know, so that they have this caricature of what they believe Jesus was, and they're living up to that. They're doing their best to actually live up to that. And I have a lot of respect for that, even as an atheist. Sweet. that? Or that? I have to pause or I'm gonna forget everything that I want to say. I'm so sorry. I know there's just no good time to pause. I keep going, no, I have so much in my head and I don't want to forget it all. But I have to pause. I'm so sorry. I think this part shifts into reverence and release because he stops focusing on the hypocrisy around him and centers her as his true source of light, what she lived and passed on to him. And it's him starting to integrate the loss and figure out how to carry her forward, something I often talk about as a very important part of the healing process of grief. I think this is the most healing part of the grief process, in my opinion, is when you start figuring out how you can share their love and light and wisdom with the world, because you start shifting out of that pain and more into figuring out how to feel connected to them. Even though the relationship obviously has changed because they're not physically there anymore. But I think it's talking about all eyes being on the ground, like she's there when she isn't, like she's in the ground and she's not there. That's where the body's at. But even as an atheist, whatever it is that animates us, that's not in the body. You know, that is gone. Even if it's just, you know, the energy of the love that we shared with people, even if it's just the memories, whatever it is, that's not in the body. And I remember after my dad passed away, having the revelation that I wasn't mourning his death, I was mourning living without him. And that's what I'm hearing here in that part. I think the spiritual language, and maybe this is just me as an atheist kind of projecting a bit, I'm perfectly okay accepting that this is just my journey, you know, and I'm hearing the song from my own lens, but to me, the spiritual language almost feels symbolic, not literal, more about honoring her beliefs and adopting them, like more about honoring the fact that her faith was a part of her, than adopting that faith as part of his own beliefs. But that's just my interpretation. I think 10,000 Days in the Fire acknowledges her long suffering, but the You're Going Home, I think that seems more about peace and release, not necessarily an afterlife, but about her not suffering anymore and about him finding that the peace that he's looking for in that grief. Oh, that was over. What is that?
This bold suggestion. Should you see your maker's face tonight, look him in the eye, look him in the eye, and tell him I never lived a life, never took a life, but surely saved one.
Sounds. I know that I'm just kind of like musically anemic in many ways, that I have not been introduced to a lot of things. I'm not familiar with a lot of different sounds or a lot of different instruments. So I'm sitting there going, ooh, what's that? Ooh, what's that? Ooh, what's that? Which actually really helped me because as someone who has ADHD, I really struggle with really long guitar solos and stuff like that because my brain's going, okay, this is cool, but now I'm starting to wander. But because of those different sounds and stuff, it kept me more captivated than I feel like I would normally feel because I was just, ooh, this is a new experience. This is something really amazing. So I'm not just focused on the wow, that takes a lot of talent to do that, but just trying to figure out, I wonder what that is. But I like how much deeper this dives than part one because I feel like part one was almost just like a prologue, and then this is the whole story. I feel like this feels like both a tribute and a confrontation because he imagines her like confidently facing God and almost demanding recognition for a life of true faith and integrity, something he believes she actually earned, unlike the others he criticized. So he feels like a lot of other people of faith don't earn being like in the presence of God or don't earn that recognition, that praise, but she does, that she is different. She set herself apart. So even as a non-believer, is seeing that she's different. And I think that's beautiful because I can almost hear it through his heart as an unbeliever myself. So I thought that was a really cool layer to it of, oh yeah, I can really understand that. I can really get why he feels that way. But like the inscription in the gas chamber that says, if there's a God, he will have to beg me for forgiveness. I think that that's kind of the the perspective that he's having of her is, no, like God needs to ask her for forgiveness. She doesn't need to ask for forgiveness. It needs to be the other way around, because she didn't deserve this, you know. And I think from a mental health lens, this is him elevating her to make sense of the loss. So I don't think he really accepted God. I think that he is using this to make sense of the loss and to connect with her. But he's using this image of God to give her power and agency in a situation where she didn't have any. She was stripped of that. She had none. So thinking of her getting to confront God was an opportunity to do that. I know that Scotty, who I've talked to or talked about many times here in the community, is a homeless man that I became friends with for many years before he passed away. He had talked many times about that too. Of, no, I want there to be a God so that I can confront him and ask him, what the hell, why did all these things happen, you know. He wanted to have faith but really struggled because no matter how hard he tried, he just couldn't seem to get his life together. And he really did try. And we helped him here as a community because the streams and stuff go toward outreach. And he was really, though, in the time way before I ever started the channel. So my son was still a toddler when I met him. But he always had that same mentality of, why should I ask God for forgiveness when he should be the one asking me for forgiveness after everything he's put me through for seemingly no reason? And I think, at the same time, he's admitting his own skepticism, the set in my ways and my arrogance, but he calls her his evidence. And I thought that was really interesting. I think that meant that her life was the closest thing he has to proof of something greater, to proof of God. Like he saw her light and her life and her story as a testament in some way to something greater, be it the God that she worshipped or not. He saw it as something greater. I don't think it's blind belief. I think it's belief that's rooted in her, and that's a big difference. I think that that final imagined moment, telling God she lived honestly and saved a life, that doesn't feel like theology to me. Again, it's more like a moral argument in a language that we're used to. So I think a lot of people will say, oh, to a child, even as a non-believer, it's very easy to say, oh, they're in a better place now when somebody's passed on, because that's language that we're used to, or language that can soften things. So I think that that's what's going on there. He's saying if anyone deserves peace, it's her. And I think this is a very strangely beautiful love story in many ways. I didn't know what to expect when I was thinking wings. Of course, I always get the image of the show Lucifer, but yeah, she got her wings, whatever that means to each of them individually. She got her wings. I think that she and him were both liberated and both freed in the end. So now I'm kind of curious, because I don't have a lot of Tool experience under my belt, like Tool belt. I don't have a lot of that. I kind of wonder, is every single song just really different sounding? And I just did 2 Tool songs in a row, which I never do. I never do artists this close together. But now I'm really curious, so I'm definitely going to be coming back to Tool just to go, is every song just going to sound wildly different, and go through all these different sounds and stuff that I'm not familiar with and keep me on my toes? Because if so, let me know which one I should do next. And also make sure that you're sharing your mental health stories here in the comments. That's how we shatter the mental health stigma, is by talking about it, by opening up, by sharing, by holding space for each other. And I want to make sure that every person that I come into contact with feels seen and heard and valued. Thank you guys so much for sharing this with me, and I'll see you again real soon. Mwah.